Hello, my name is Dr. Paul Bowles. I'm with the Washington State University team working in collaboration with the Extension Collaborative on Immunization, Teaching, and Engagement, or EXCITE. This is one of 3 video modules produced on applied neuromarketing science as part of the Getting to the Heart and Mind of the Matter Toolkit. There are many other modules for you to use to help you learn from the toolkit, as well as these videos. You can watch any of our other videos about motivational interviewing, science media literacy, or this video and the others on applied neuromarketing science by clicking the link to each of the modules in the description. Before I get started with the content of this video module, I'd like to thank my co-author on the toolkit and these videos on applied neuromarketing science, Dimu. She's a doctoral candidate and research associate in the Neuromedia Mind Lab in the Murrow College of Communication at Washington State University. Let's get started. Welcome to Neuromarketing Part 3. This is video 3 of 3 videos. This video is focused on applied neuromarketing, producing brain-friendly health communication. This video has one sole objective. It's that straightforward and simple. Gain a practical understanding of how to apply an understanding of neuromarketing science to developing, designing, and delivering brain-friendly, effective health communication content. So let's do it. Neuromarketing science is a tool for brain-friendly health communication content. By brain-friendly, you need to know that I mean content that is very specifically and purposefully, strategically even, tactically designed to work with the way the human brain is structured and functions so that content can achieve desired objectives. Effective brain-friendly health communication content is going to do these 3 very important things with your target audience. It's going to engage, educate, and empower individuals to make evidence-based health decisions. I want to say a few words about those ideas. Engage. That means it's got to obviously capture and sustain attention throughout the communication content delivery experience. Educate. Health communication is about educating, and educating over persuasion even, I would argue. You've got to get people to actually remember and learn the core key messages in that content in order to have any positive effect on their health and wellness. And I mean, even more important, you better empower them. Health communication content has got to empower audiences to make independent decisions, feel like they have the ability and the respect and the credibility of your organization backing them in making very strong, the best possible evidence-based health decisions for their lives. Effective brain-friendly health communication content, this is so important it's worth repeating, is going to engage, educate, and empower individuals to make evidence-based health decisions. That's the objective of health communication. Neuromarketing science and health communication content, thinking through how to practically design effective health communication content. Neuromarketing has a very valuable role to play in that process, the process of producing and delivering effective health science content by doing these 2 very important things. In fact, these 2 very important things broadly describe the ways that applied neuromarketing science can be applied by professional health communicators like yourself. 1, it can fundamentally and practically guide the production of brain-friendly content. We talked about that a lot on the last slide. But this just involves applying knowledge of the human brain to the processes of developing, designing, and delivering health communication content to a specific target audience. And then second, and this is, by the way, the second way that neuromarketing can be applied, and that is that it can in a very original way provide new data-based actionable insights through actual concrete in the field health message and content testing using the methodologies involved in neuromarketing science. There's a video where you can check that out in more details that I'll direct you to at the end of this video. But that's so important to think about the role of neuromarketing in generating effective health communication content. And here's a key takeaway before we start diving into some very practical points about applying neuromarketing science in the process of developing, designing, and delivering health communication content. You, as a communication professional, you're going to have to always remember human brain characteristics always impact how community members mentally process and behaviorally respond to all information surrounding any health topic and issue. I think that's probably obvious and no doubt point to an extent, but it's so easy to forget. And what distinguishes approaches that apply neuromarketing science from approaches that don't is that point about how the human brain always impacts how information is processed and responded to remains top of mind for the communication professional. Here's where the rubber meets the road for health communication professionals like yourselves. Emotional and potentially politicized, unfortunately, in this day and age, communication contexts that surround health science in general. I think there's no debate that health science has gotten politicized to a degree. But all this makes a scientific approach to health communication through neuromarketing science even more crucial to the process of developing, designing, and delivering effective health communication content. Let's get down to the very concrete practicals right now and really start working towards that sole objective for this video, which is apply neuromarketing to the effective design of health communication content. There are what I call brain truths. These are brain truths about how the human mind and brain is structured and functions, and they apply generally, no matter whose head the brain is in. Now, that doesn't mean that people aren't individuals and individual characteristics and neurodiversity. That doesn't mean that that doesn't impact the way people will process health communication content, because it absolutely will. But these brain truths are very important because they are general truths that can be used to practically guide health communication content. And in the context of health communication, these truths operate in what I call overdrive, meaning you better remember these truths about how the human brain works, because in health communication contexts, these facts about how the human brain processes and responds to information are really at work in shaping responses to your messaging. 3 brain truths are: the brain is a motivational and emotional processor, meaning emotion and motivation fundamentally drives all processing of health communication content. Health science information, misinformation, is extremely emotional, political even, and it primes highly emotional, aversive, and defensive responses, meaning that in this day and age, my conclusion as a communication professional doing this kind of science is that health communication professionals have got to really think about the negative, aversive, politicized, emotional environment that health communication has got to break through to have its desired positive impact. The brain is a limited capacity processor, just basically meaning that obviously we can't process all information. And so you've got to very strategically design your information so that the core message gets through. Health science contains a lot of bits of changing information that's tied to the evolving science. So this issue is even more important for health communication because the science changes. That's the nature of science. And that really bumps up against and works against a lot of target audience members effectively processing health communication content because the brain is a limited capacity processor. Brain truth number 3, the brain is a cultural contextual processor. Earlier I said individual differences matter, and yes, indeed they do. And it's because the brain is fundamentally a cultural contextual processor. Individuals obviously bring cultural experiences, pre-existing attitudes, pre-existing memory, all of that to bear on how they're going to process health science information embedded in health communication messaging and campaigns. Cultural background and experiences, creating disparities and distrust in this environment are especially important to consider in terms of these brain truths in overdrive as they shape the communication context and filter in a very potentially biased way how health science is even interpreted and responded to by your target audience. Well, the obvious solution is respect those brain truths. And we're going to take a few minutes to talk through that in terms of thinking through how to very practically apply neuromarketing science through the lens of these brain truths to effective communication content, specifically health communication in developing, designing, and delivering that kind of content. So the brain is a emotional processor. Talked about that a minute ago, how important emotion and just basic aversive emotion is. Here are two examples. One example I've pulled out, and by the way, this is all going to be in the context of messaging about vaccination, specifically the COVID-19 vaccine, because I think that's a great case study in these brain truths being in overdrive and how to think through the brain truths more broadly and generally applying neuromarketing science to the effective design of health communication content. But here's a couple of vaccine science messages around COVID-19 vaccine. One is brain unfriendly, one is brain friendly. And you can see how the emotional tone of these messages, these specific messages, impacts the degree to which the content designers have explicitly respected and considered the truth that the brain is a motivational emotional processor. Message on the left, look at those aversive emotional cues. The message on the right, look at those appetitive positive cues. You've got to think through how to strategically consider both positive and negative emotional tone in health communication content and effectively balance that and effectively decide whether you're going to go all negative or all positive. And oftentimes it's going to have to be a mixture of positive and negative content. But that's one example. The message on the right respects the brain truth. The message on the left, brain unfriendly, does not. Another brain truth. The brain is a limited capacity processor. Again, message on the left doesn't respect this brain truth. Message on the right respects this brain truth and is brain friendly. The biggest, very general, practical, tactical production technique that impacts the degree to which producers respect the fact that the brain is a limited capacity processor just fundamentally and simply has to do with clutter and bits of information. That message on the left throws a whole lot of stuff at the audience. The message on the left is clean, simple, uncluttered. A very central core message is communicated in the message on the right, the brain-friendly one. Brain truth number 3 that you got to respect very practically. The brain is a cultural contextual processor. Again, message on the left, brain unfriendly. Message on the right, brain friendly. Message on the left does make some attempt to implement tactically into the message some cultural cues, some form of cultural cues. Now, it doesn't respect the other brain truth about the brain being a limited capacity processor, and that really is going to interfere with the ability of any cultural cue to break through in the messaging and how the brain processes the content in order to respect this brain truth that the brain is a cultural contextual processor. Message on the right, brain friendly, you can see how different it is and just culturally resonates with a specific defined target audience. That's the way to go. That's the way to respect brain truths. As we proceed through the rest of the content on very strategically and tactically applying neuromarketing science to effectively developing health science, health communication content, I'm going to give you some just general information, general practical tips. So, researchers who study the human brain have said that the mind that emerges from the brain can fundamentally be viewed as basically having roughly two kind of ways of processing. System one, system two. System two is very conscious, highly controlled, rational thinking. System one is the opposite of that. It's intuitive thinking, automatic, less conscious. Now, here's the point. As a health communication producer, you've got to think through producing brain-friendly health education content that's going to include content that engages both those systems. It's never going to be the case that the best health communication content only involves highly rational, conscious decision-making and processing in the brain, or only involves unconscious processing, automatic processing. You got to activate both with the way you develop, design, and deliver content. Here's some practical tips on how to do that. Use production features to gain system one activity. These are the very simple, strategic, often overlooked production features like camera angles, shot length, color schemes, font size, production pacing, cuts and edits in video. Just the clutterness, the elements that you have, the visuals, those can automatically grab and sustain attention. That engages system one. And then you use very well thought out copy and content to engage system two, highly conscious thinking, thinking that goes far beyond that. You write copy to highlight key points, content that empowers individuals, that evokes conscious emotional responses. You also got to think through defensiveness specifically in designing brain-friendly health communication content. Brain-friendly health communication content for communities, it's got to reduce defensiveness and emotionally resonate to motivate individuals to even consider and act on the health science information that's in that content. Again, some researchers who theorize about the nature of the human brain and the nature of emotion and raw motivational processes have used this analogy of a rider on an elephant. The idea that the rider controlling an elephant is those conscious, highly conscious processes that we talked about in system two. The elephant is everything else. It's emotional, it's visceral, it's raw, gut level emotions involved in approach and defense. And the elephant is more powerful than the rider. And so you got to learn how to tame the elephant, calm people down, reduce defensiveness, and then emotionally resonate to get people to process that information. You can see a few practical tips on doing that, like feature relatable real humans that can connect with your audience. Positive emotional content plays a role in reducing defensiveness. Specifically, there's a lot of work suggesting that appealing to the emotion of hope very explicitly in copy can be effective. But you also got to acknowledge the risks to be credible. Use calming color schemes, inclusive language. Avoid highlighting highly aversive cues with a health topic. This has been borne out by a lot of research on anti-tobacco messaging. This has demonstrated that the highly graphic, gross images often used in that kind of messaging backfires because it activates. It doesn't calm down defensiveness of smokers. And you got to avoid using unintended political cues, red colors that fire people up, and avoid directive or loss-framed language that can increase defensiveness. Final practical tip, as kind of a bonus to respecting those three brain truths. Here's a very practical tip for specifically writing information for the delivery over the internet, online, whether it's delivered on laptops, desktops, or smartphones. This is just a very practical writing tip that several studies have demonstrated is more effective at engaging and sustaining attention in a way that supports memory for the content. It's called the bot stack meal approach. Basically, it means that your very first paragraph in writing needs to be bite-sized, snappy headlines, descriptive subject lines, very quick, short, brief content. Increase the pacing if it's audio, video. Snack means that after that paragraph, you give them a little bit more of the information to try and educate them. This is where you need to kind of really start building in information and copy that empowers audiences. Key takeaways, abstracts of the points, summaries, just bits that are coherent and clean as a snack. Then you can give them the meal. Talk to them in detail about the science and what the science potentially means to their life. This is where you deliver kind of full detailed article, case studies, topical and expertise, depth that increases credibility and also is still empowering the audience. That's kind of how you should think through writing copy for effective, brain-friendly health communication content. So there's a whole lot of things going on in the human mind and brain when people are trying to process health science content contained in your health communication content. This is a diagram that depicts that. Not going to go into all the details. It's just a lot of things, a lot of work, and a lot of that work unconscious that's going on in the human brain and mind as it processes health science information in health communication content. There are these raw, appetitive, and aversive emotional responses you got to consider. That's so important as you think through the importance of designing content that reduces defensiveness and resonates emotionally, mixing positive and negative content, potentially hope appeals, saying people that your recommendations offer a degree of hope to them to navigate life in a more well and healthy manner. You got to remember that pre-existing content or cultural attitudes, political, cultural attitudes, how they assess risk, past health experiences, all that in a highly conscious way is going to, in a top-down manner, shape and influence the way your health communication content is processed and responded to. And so you got to know your audience and you got to write content that resonates with that. And then I'll come back to this one because this is the easiest one to not remember and just so often forget in how you produce health communication content. The most important brain truth that I talk about is the brain is a limited cognitive capacity processor. And once again, I got to acknowledge, we're probably running into that with you right now. But you got to remember the implications of limited cognitive capacity for strategically designing health communication content in terms of clean, uncluttered bits of information, all focused around one central message or idea around your health communication content. So that's it. I sure hope I've given you some information that helps you very practically think through how to apply neuromarketing science to the development, design, and delivery of health communication content that's brain-friendly. Let's do it. Let's do brain-friendly health communication content. Effectively engage, educate, and empower your audiences for wellness and healthy living. That's what it's all about, folks. As part of this project, on the project that's been sponsored by Excite, we've also actually produced an applied neuromarketing science case study. This video is included as supplemental material or an appendix that you can view, and I strongly encourage you to view that. If you view that after viewing this video, one thing I want you to focus on when you're viewing that video is I want you to think through how that specific case study, which details some actual real in the field neuromarketing content testing we did, but how that case study actually details how important these very specifics that I've given you in this video on applying neuromarketing to health communication, how those specifics really apply in getting to the point of health communication content that effectively engages, educates, and empowers an audience. That video is terrifically hosted by Deemna, who I introduced to you earlier. And I really do please encourage you to view that video. Thank you for watching and learning with me today. Again, I'd like to thank the Excite Foundation through its interagency agreement with the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for funding this project. I really hope this toolkit, and more specifically this video, is highly useful and helpful to you as you try to do the very important, socially relevant task of engaging, educating, and empowering your community members through brain-friendly health communication content. I'm Dr. Paul Bowles. Thank you for your attention today.